the Low-Tech Review Show, where contestants battle out to be the king of advanced placement in United States history. I'm your host, Colton Butler, and today we have two students looking to battle it out for our mystery prize. Please welcome Marcus Steele. How are you today, Marcus?
Yes.
Alrighty then. And please welcome our second guest, Dan Hevern. How's it going, Dan?
It goes.
God. Okay, folks, topic of the day is industrial America in the late 19th century.
That's a mouthful.
That's what she
Our categories for round one are titans of industry, immigration, business practices, and strikes.
We're gonna talk about immigrants. Damn those no good thieving.
We're back, everybody. Let's begin. The rules here are simple. Choose a category of any point value, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. Dan, you can go first.
I'll take immigration for 100.
Which group of immigrants came over into California during the Gold Rush?
Was it the Chinese?
Is that a question or an answer?
Answer?
Correct! Many Chinese men came over to work on railroads such as the Central Pacific Railroad, hoping to make enough money to be able to marry and purchase land back in China. Now choose another category.
I'll take immigration for 200.
Name the two main areas of Europe that the new immigrants came from.
Southern and Eastern.
Correct. Over 30 million combined Italians, Russians, Poles, Catholics, Jews, and others mainly came over to escape persecution and make money to return home with. Go again.
I'll take immigration for 300.
What was the political impact of immigrants?
Are you kidding me? That's like a gazillion point question.
Is that your final answer?
No,
Wrong. Marcus?
Bosses were able to take advantage of their poor people's working conditions by giving them votes in exchange for votes. Votes?
That's mostly correct. Wow. This was known as machine politics, as immigrants were given jobs, housing, food, and clothing in return for their vote. You can choose a category, Marcus.
Strikes for 100.
What were the May Day strikes?
The strikes in May.
Dan, it's back to you.
That was when 8,000 workers went on strike at the McCormick Harvester Company for an 8-hour workday in 1886.
Wow, someone knows what's going on here. But yes, the May Day strikes happened in Chicago with the Knights of Labor, and about half of them failed. Before we go on, here's a word from one of our vintage sponsors. And we're back here at Give Them a Push. Dan, you currently have the lead. Please choose a category.
I would like strikes for 200.
What happened on May 4th, 1886 in Chicago that included the bombing and caused the decline of the Knights of Labor?
The Haymarket Square incident.
Very nice. The Knights of Labor were mistakenly associated with the bombing, which then, paired with their inclusion of skilled and unskilled labor, led to their downfall. Pick again.
Titans of industry for 100.
Which railroad tycoon popularized steel rails and made $100 million by offering railway services at lower prices?
Was it William Vanderbilt?
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Marcus?
Henry Clay?
You're funny, and also wrong. The answer I was looking for was Cornelius Vanderbilt. William Vanderbilt was his robber baron's son. Both men represented the ideal of most tycoons and that the law and the public did not matter, only making money. Dan, you can go.
Business practices for 200, I guess.
Which practice involved allying with one's competitors to gain a monopoly in a certain market?
Was that horizontal integration?
Correct. John D. Rockefeller used this method to organize his Standard Oil Trust, and by 1877 he controlled 95% of all oil refineries in America. The linked question for round one, for 100 points, is as follows. Andrew Carnegie used which method that combined all phases of manufacturing, from acquiring resources all the way to marketing them?
Vertical integration.
Nicely done. Go again.
I would like business practices for 300.
When they inflated claims about a line's assets and profitability, resulting in stocks and bonds sold for more than they were worth, railroad promoters practiced what?
Stock watering.
Correct yet again. Pick your next category.
I would like Titans of Industry for 400.
You selected the give them a push question of the day. Marcus, you can give Dan a push by betting he will get it wrong with however many points you wish. If he is wrong, you get the chance to answer for the combined total. If he gets it right, he'll receive the points. Would you like to?
Absolutely, I'm going all in.
Okay then, Dan, for 700 points, which Scotsman made $25 million a year in the Pittsburgh steel industry?
I'm going to say J.P. Morgan.
Ooh, no. Morgan was in the banking business. Marcus?
Rachel Jackson.
Yeah, definitely. She sounds like a total Scotsman. No, the answer I was looking for was Andrew Carnegie. J.P. Morgan did, however, buy out Carnegie Steel Company for $400 million, which created the United States Steel Corporation. Unfortunately, for the rest of us, you can choose a category, Marcus.
Business practices for 400.
In order to combine his competition, J.P. Morgan used what practice when he placed members of his own banking business on their other boards of directors?
Interlocking directories.
Congratulations on your second correct answer for the entire game. Pick again.
Strikes for 300.
Which strike occurred at a Carnegie Steel plant in Pennsylvania in 1892 and resulted in the surrender of 300 armed Pinkerton detectives?
The Homestead strikes, of course.
Yeah, of course. Go again.
Let's finish out strikes.
What Chicago-based company's workers went on strike in 1894 because it cut their wages by a third?
The Pullman Palace Car Company.
You're on a roll. Attorney General Richard Olney recommended that President Grover Cleveland call in federal troops as the strike interfered with U.S. mail. Cleveland did, which marked the first time the government used its power to break a strike. We're going to take a short break, and it's on to round two.
Hello, I'm the North.
And I is the South.
You know, you should see what this guy can do. He puts blacks and whites in a virtual form of slavery known as sharecropping, where they're waist deep in debt.
Well, shucks, you flatter me. It's not like I can help it, though, seeing as I'm poor and all as a result of Reconstruction and the Civil War.
He even provides raw materials for me to make millions on the backs of children, women, and immigrants.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many come stay with me in my cities? I have plentiful jobs and cheap men housing.
At least I got James and Buchan and Duke and his American Tobacco Company.
And we can't forget Plessy vs. Ferguson, which ruled that separate but equal facilities are constitutional under the 14th Amendment.
As it should be. Your surplus of industrial jobs taking people away from my land into your factoriums.
That's factory to you, for us city folk as well. I mean, I have department stores, electricity, plumbing, plenty of cheap housing in my cities. Why wouldn't you want to live here?
I've always wanted to live in a dumbbell tenement. A lack of ventilation and shared outhouse sounds mighty fine to me, mighty fine.
Well, you would know something about dumbbells, wouldn't you?
Give them a push is back, and here begins round two where point values are double. Our categories here are politics, laws, corruption, and literature. Marcus, since you somehow currently have the lead, you can pick first.
Laws for 800.
The Interstate Commerce Act of 1887 did what?
It prohibited rebates and the pooling or division of business to share the profits, and it made railroads publish their rates openly. It also prohibited any discrimination against shippers or made it illegal to charge more for a short haul than a long haul in the same line. Last, it created the Interstate Commerce Commission to enforce the new law.
Surprisingly enough, that's correct. Choose again.
Laws for 600.
Large business combinations or trusts that restrain trade were forbidden under which act?
Oh shoot.
Dan?
I'd say that's the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890.
That's correct. Also, though the act did little against trust, it did break up labor unions that restrained trade. Pick a category, Dan.
I'll take corruption for 200.
The Credit Mobilier scandal of 1872 involved what?
That was when the Union Pacific Railroad insiders who created the Credit Mobilier Company and then hired themselves at high prices to build the railroad, which increased their earnings by as much as 348%.
Indeed. The company gave shares to Congressman and even Ulysses S. Grant's Vice President Henry Wilson. Pick again.
I will take corruption for 400.
In 1869, millionaires Jim Fisk and Jay Gould bribed Grant's brother-in-law with $25,000 in order to what?
so that they could corner the gold market and bid the price of gold upward and make a large profit.
Nicely done. Their plan would have worked if the U.S. Treasury hadn't sold gold that was later forced to, but Grant wasn't found guilty of any wrongdoing. Go again.
I'll take corruption for 600.
Which infamous corrupt boss used bribes and dishonest elections in New York City to earn $200 million, only to be brought down by cartoonist Thomas Nash?
That would be William Mercy Tweed, or Boss Tweed.
Very good. Would you like to finish out corruption?
Yeah. Sure.
The whiskey ring involved what?
Something to do with taxes.
I'll need more than that. Marcus? Meow. The whiskey ring involved the robbery of the U.S. Treasury for millions of dollars in tax revenues on whiskey. When Grant's own private secretary was accused of being involved, Grant's testimony acquitted him. Back to you, Dan.
I'll take politics for 200.
Which election led to the Compromise and Electoral Count Act of 1877?
That's easy. It's the disputed election of 1876 between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden.
You are correct. Go again.
I'll take laws for 400.
What did the Electoral Count Act of 1877 do?
I don't know.
It created an electoral commission with 50 members from the Senate, House, and Supreme Court.
Loser.
Marcus was right. With it, the Democrats on the commission consented to electing Hayes so long as he withdrew soldiers from Louisiana and South Carolina where they remained from Reconstruction. Go ahead.
Laws for 200.
What act prohibited all Chinese immigration until
The
1943?
Chinese Exclusion Act.
Still down there, Haas, but pick again. You were correct.
Politics for 400.
Explain the difference between stalwarts and half-breeds.
Stalwarts favored the spoil system while half-breeds were in favor of civil service reform.
Yes, though the half-breeds weren't completely opposed to the spoil system. Choose again.
Politics for 600.
The assassination of President Garfield by a stalwart looking for a job prompted what?
The Pendleton Act of 1883.
Yes, and here's our link question for round 2. What did this act do?
I couldn't tell you, Mr. Trebek.
Dan, please tell me you know.
Yes, it outlawed mandatory contributions from government employees to campaigns and also created Civil Service Commission, which gave out government jobs based on examinations and not the spoils system.
Wonderful. Now on our final round 2 category, literature. For 400 points, Dan, Harlan F. Halsey wrote over 650 of what kind of popular books?
Dime novels!
Yes. Moving on to 400 points. Which writer was known for his cookie-cutter adolescent stories about how virtue, honesty, and industry were rewarded by success, wealth, and honor?
Horatio Alger.
Yes. Now for 600. Originally Samuel Longhorn Clemens, which sarcastic American writer provided the term Gilded Age?
Mark Twain.
Correct. Last, for 800 points, name the author and title of a 1901 novel about the influence of the railroad and corrupt officials on California wheat farmers.
Frank Norris and The Pit.
You got the author right, but not the novel. Marcus?
The Octopus.
That's it. The Pit is a sequel, Dan. 400 points go to each of you since you each had half the question correct. Before we move on to our final lightning round, here's another word from one of our sponsors.
Hello?
Ahoy, ahoy!
Oh God, what are you doing?
I'm just answering the phone the way Alexander Graham Bell intended.
Why are you calling me?
Well, I just heard you were having a movie and a music party, which is awfully convenient because Thomas Edison invented both motion pictures and the phonograph.
Yes, truly amazing. You're still not invited.
Well, you can thank Eli Whitney for inventing the mass production, which is currently allowing you to reject me. Are you there? Hello?
It's now time to finish up with our lightning round, where you each receive 4 questions and each is worth 200 points each. Dan, you're going first. Describe the differing philosophies between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois.
Well, Booker T. Washington advocated training African Americans to agriculture or other trades, thinking that with their economic independence, their civil rights would follow. W.E.B. Du Bois favored the immediate and full equality of African Americans and also developing the talented 10th of college-educated African Americans.
Very good. Now, explain Andrew Carnegie's Gospel of Wealth and also the Social Gospel.
The Gospel of Wealth referred to the rich and their responsibility for philanthropic services. And
Very good.
the social gospel held that it was the duty of the community to service the poor and those in need.
The community?
The churches.
Yeah, there you go. I knew you had it in you.
Churches.
Alright, now, define social Darwinism.
Well, social Darwinism held that the wealthy became that way as a result of their own hard work, and that the poor were such because of their own laziness. And it also referred to as survival of the fittest.
Correct. Here's your last question. Which two inventions during this time period had the most impact on American women, and why?
Well, I would have to say the telephone and the typewriter, because they brought more women into the workplaces as switchboard operators and secretaries.
That was a perfect run. Now to you, Marcus. What was the Chautauqua movement?
The Chautauqua movement, like the Lyceum movement, began in Chautauqua, New York in 1874.
Go on.
It featured public, nationwide lecture halls featuring popular authors such as Mark Twain.
Yeah, that was good. Who began yellow journalism, and what was it?
It was when writers used sensationalism in order to sell more papers, and it really began with Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst.
Correct again. What was the American Federation of Labor, and who founded it?
It was a league of individual labor unions consisting only of skilled workers. It was founded by Samuel Gompers.
You're right again. Last, what were popular forms of entertainment during this era?
Vaudeville, African American minstrel shows, the circus, basketball, and Wild West shows. Actually, it was baseball, not basketball.
I'll take it. Another perfect run, which I'm sure came as a surprise to everyone. Well, it appears the final scores are 6,400 points to Dan and 4,600 points to Marcus. You can go for one final question, Marcus, and bet however many points you want.
I'll go all in again.
I mean, I guess those are your points. What color was George Washington's white horse? Wait, how did that get in there?
Well, there's no real way of knowing what color his horse was since we have no color photography. We can assume, though, that since polar bears with white skin appear white, though their skin is really dark, I think the color of George Washington's white horse can only be found through electron spectroscopy of the DNA particles that remain in the horse's grave. In this way, I think George Washington's white horse is probably orange.
Mr. Deal, what you just said, one of the most silly, idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in your response were you even close to resembling anything that's like a rational thought. Everyone watching my show is no dumber for having heard it. I award you no points. May God have mercy on your soul. Dan, congratulations. You've won a gently used 2013 APUS review book.
His horse was white, wasn't it? Is that? I guess that's good now.